Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And today we actually have handheld mics. Welcome to those of you who are here for the in-person classes. And we're going to say hello to those of you who have logged on online. We made a little switch in the Zoom link this week, so some of you may not have shown up or couldn't get in, so hopefully you figure it out by another time. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting here. And as I like to start out by seeing if there are any new people uh, this week. Anybody who's not attended any prior classes, well, welcome. Just kind of curious how you might have found out about these classes. And I'm going to kind of walk towards you so people can hear. How'd you find out?
Hello, I'm Jamie. First time in Grange. So I live just a couple of blocks away, and I'm new to the games and about a year. So I was just going on a very long walk a couple of weeks ago, and I happened to see this building, and I said, I didn't know it was Grange so close, right? So I looked up the website, found this class, and am super interested in this. I work in cardiology here. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming and welcome. And then maybe you could share how you found out about the class.
Facebook.
What was it? Facebook. Great. Okay. So if anybody has a question, you see the microphones actually work and people can hear you both in the room and online. And so,
huh? Yes, you have to talk
to hear. Okay. We'll, I've got one mic on my shirt and another mic over here. We'll figure out the sound system one of these days. Anyway, so for those of you who've come to more than one class, is there anybody who has any questions or any thoughts that you wish to share with the group? This group is, we're here to share the science with you. We're going to share that with you. It's a little different each week, but we're also here to support your journey toward health, and that will look different for a lot of you, but it will look similar for others. But we recognize there are individual differences among people, and different things work for different people in different ways. So is there anybody who has anything that they care to share? Yeah.
I spend my day talking about questions that I can ask you. I do. I have probably like 30 questions in my brain.
Well, why don't we do one or two, and then we can do some more later.
Okay, well, let me see.
Here's a question here.
So, last week was my surgery. But I felt also all the tips on the Dr. Grader to comment the diet, but with the 21 days, sometimes you have to add more things for weight loss to get past that. And Dr. Grader, I was working on the plateau as we get more weight around, so how you keep going. You burn less calories just moving around when you lost weight, and then your body kind of wants to kind of at that point, you kind of want to hang on to more on that. And kind of design, but usually walking over that sort of thing to do that. But that's what I drive those calories down a bit lower. If you haven't watched that class, I try to get these on the Fix Report website. Yeah, last week we talked about the food addiction. But challenge that.
Anyone else? hold on a second.
This lady on your website, Chuck, and that is, how do you figure out when you do something like that, whatever, how to make it, how do you figure out how to make it?
Yes. Yes, so complete protein, it was one of those myths that was started way back in the 1970s, something around then, that the author of that book who came out with you had to mix certain plants to get complete protein has since rescinded her explanation about what you need to do. So you'll get adequate protein if you're eating enough calories of totally just plants. Not to worry about it. It's an old myth that has been persisted, and you can set that aside. Okay, good question. Yes. Did you?
I don't have a question.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, one of my work friends was recently diagnosed with diabetes. And of course, her doctor just started throwing expensive meds at her and didn't talk to her about her diet or anything. So I started talking to her and I gave her a couple books to read. And she's like, why hasn't anybody ever told me this? Because she's doing low carbs and, all that stuff. So she's reading books and she may join us.
Wonderful. Yeah, low carb is quite in vogue. Kelly Clarkson, as a celebrity, is fairly influential, and she has been promoting keto, or did before. She's now, I don't know if she's doing Ozempic now or not, but there are many ways to try to circumvent actually making healthy lifestyle choices. So what the circumventing making healthy lifestyle choices, what does that do? It distracts you
Smoked breast chicken thigh, al pastor.
from actually making healthy choices.
So I've had different varieties of what I would call healthy diets throughout my life, but I've always been an overeater, and I've always been a quick eater. And I've come up with what I think is helpful. I've taken my interval timers that I use for exercise, and I've set the timer to slow down. Basically, one bite, this amount of time, and it works pretty good. So I just want to share the idea that that's helpful.
Thanks for sharing that, because being more mindful and spending more time enjoying your foods as opposed to just watching TV or talking on the phone, looking at your phone and eating, not even knowing what you're doing, it's not nearly as helpful. So good for you for coming up with that on your own.
Excuse the interruption. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I can't hear a lot of this. I can't hear most of the questions coming in. I don't know if they're coming in from online users or in person, but I can't hear the questions. I don't know if there's anything you do about it. I'll go back.
I'm going to try something a little different with our microphone that I'm wearing right now instead of these handheld microphones. Yeah. Ask them if they can hear this.
Hello, can you hear this? Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, I can hear your question, Gelft, or whoever you are.
Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Yep.
Okay, we're working on it. We'll get through it. So last week at the end of the show, so to speak, this session, I had a lady come up to me and tell me that she talked to one of her friends about the two of us, and we've been given a nickname. I don't know if anyone can come up with that nickname, but I thought it was pretty appropriate. Did you came up with it? Can't remember what your name is, but thank you. I kind of felt really good about it, actually, and I wrote a little note to my kids about how the title of it was called Plant Creatures. And I thought it was very appropriate thing. I think we should really came up with that. We thought about it. And I gave some serious thought to that issue. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about this science, sharing just yelling at signs. So we have to do something different, not for some people. They need to have experience. The sign, and that would involve something jumping up and down, getting up, emotional, singing, dancing, preaching, however it works. There needs some sort of emotional connection with it, rather than just and I'm just thinking, there are so many people over the last 12 years that I've interacted with. And for those of you who are new, I have a lot of these cards and letters, and there's many more of these emails over the last 12 years of people who really had benefit. I want to share one of these people with you tonight.
Okay, again, sorry for the interruption, Charlie. But I went from not being able to hear the questions. Now I can't hear the moderator. I can hear the questions more clearly, but I can't hear the moderator at all. So that's worse, actually. Sorry.
Okay. So now, what I wanted to share is this person. I gave a talk in Idaho in February of this year. It was to a group of physicians. And one of the people who attended was a physician assistant who said to one of the patients, you have 3 doctors tell you get your affairs in order. There's nothing wrong with you. You're on 20 different medicines. You have atrial fibrillation, heart failure, you have diabetes, overweight, you have GIA, so many issues going on. There's not much more we can do for you, and you better get your affairs in order. She then set about with her husband to arrange to sell her house, gave away her horse that she'd had for 20 years to someone that she just didn't want to leave it to someone she didn't know. And she was given advice by a physician assistant who attended the class, just like this class. And the physician assistant said, call this guy. So we had a talk. I remember talking to her for about 45 minutes on the way home from the next. And she was very depressed. She said, I just don't know what to do. I'm really not ready to die. I'm 67 years of age. And so, of course, plant preacher me. What did I do? I just spent time talking to her about the science, what simple choices that she could make, simple changes in her diet that potentially could help. Well, she made those changes after I had maybe one other episode talking with her. And as soon as she started sending me that she was losing weight, it started to feel a little bit better. Okay. She was losing weight. She started feeling a little bit better. And it's now been 6 months. 6 months. She just sent me a note this week. She said, they canceled my surgical procedure for changing the atrial fibrillation because that's improved so much. I've lost 48 pounds. I now have energy I did not have before. I'm back to work. I feel great. And I no longer think I'm going to die. That reminded me of Stu Stevens, the diabetic patient, who the same thing happened with him. He was on a course learning how to die as opposed to living. So this lady sent me her lab work. Her cholesterol level, it was totally unbelievable. It was 248 when she started. It's down to 123 right now. Her LDL was 48. Totally incredible. Totally incredible. The rest of her labs were looking great. Well, the interesting thing is she saw a doctor yesterday, not one of those other three who told her she's going to die, but she saw a fourth doctor. Can't remember what his specialty was, but he told her, you know, I think you should get some genetic testing. Your cholesterol is really high and you've got all these problems. It's not going to help you. You know, you're at the end of the line, but it might help your kids. She had not seen her laboratory values when she made that appointment until that evening, when she saw her cholesterol level had dropped down to 120 something, three, I think. She says, I got online and Amazon.com, $17. I bought How Not to Die, and I'm going to give that doctor the book. I thought that was a wonderful story. It really made my life, and it made me want to teach another class. It's stories like these people have that are so inspiring that there is nothing else that I prefer to do. I was on the tennis court today and I was doing the tennis dance. I was having fun. I do love tennis, but let me tell you, listening to this lady brought more joy into my heart than any wonderful tennis point that I was successful at. All right. Man, I've spent a lot of time with the introduction, but what can I tell you? I asked her if she would talk to our group in October. I figured by then we might have the bugs worked out of sound and other things. She lives on the border of Idaho and Oregon, and she said that she would log on, share her story, and answer any questions that people have, because she says she's just doing simple changes in her life, and very happy. I asked her also, so how much support do you have for this? Your husband on board with this? Anybody support him? She says, not really. My husband eats his meal and I eat mine. They're different right now, and I'm hoping he chooses to change by seeing the benefits that I've received over this. Okay, with that, we're going to get to the topic of the night, and that's, can our minds determine our health? And, you know, we've spent a lot of time talking about how food is important and sleep, and stress, social connections, how we move throughout the day, chemicals we choose, the 6 pillars. They're all right up here, you know, right here, for either bringing you health or leading to disease if you choose not to make good choices. I think of another topic that could be used rather than can our minds determine our health is get the junk out of the trunk. If you've got a car and it's filled up with a bunch of junk, it doesn't work as efficiently. You know, you use up more gas, you more wear and tear on the tires. Same way with your brain. If you got a lot of junk up in there, a lot of stress issues that you haven't dealt with, anger from people who have hurt you in the past, those are things that it would be important to kind of rid your mind of to bring you the best life where you can actually thrive and not just survive. We're interested in you thriving. So your mind can determine whether you're healthy or not. Positive thoughts will promote your health. Do not postpone joy, and be mindful by practicing techniques that work best for you. And get rid of the junk in your brain to lead the happiest and healthiest life. That's the brief overview. At the end, about 15 minutes left in our session here. I'll go over some of the techniques that you personally could use to kind of help you on your path toward health. by using your mind and food and moving and all those things that are important to our health. So to start this out, I want to share. Actually, I want to do a little demonstration. It's hard for me to do holding both of these things, but I'm going to try to do it. Yeah, I'm going to stand here because I want to be here so that people can watch me online too. So if you just bear with me a little bit, we're going to play a game together. The game goes something like this. You know those little lemon drops that you used to eat as a kid? Those yellow lemon drops with that sugary stuff that's all over them? Okay, I want you to pretend that I am giving each one of you in the room, you know, online, and here in our room, virtually, if you hold your hand out, I'm going to put them into your hand. 1, 2, 3. Hand out. I want you to take your other hand and roll that little lemon drop around in your hand. Just roll it around. You feel that little sugar going around there, okay? Now, I want you to take that lemon drop and I want you to take it and place it on your tongue virtually, okay? You put it in your tongue, and what is it that you're tasting? You're tasting that sweetness, that sugary sweetness, and then what comes next? That sour, lemony taste. Okay, you all got it? How many mouth started to water? Yeah, just talking about this. We have got, you know, we're like Pavlov's dogs. We are conditioned. There are various things in our life that can influence our emotions, that can influence our physical changes in our body. And when we recognize those, we may be able to alter our habits somewhat. But we may still have that response, and we can do some thinking about it. And we're going to go on to the next little session, and that's a little bit of the science connected with our mind. So let's take the next study. It's a study of people who have torn meniscus, the cartilage in their knee. They did this study in Canada. I don't know, it's been about 10 or 15 years ago. They took one group, they had pretty similar damage, took one group, took them into surgery. And they cut them open and they removed that flopping piece of cartilage in their knee. They sewed them up and they sent them home to rehab. The second group, they took them into surgery, they prepped their knee, they made an incision on the knee, and they left the cartilage in. So they did nothing. They just cut the skin open so the patient thought that they had the cartilage removed. Now, what do you think was the difference in pain and ability to move at the end of a year between these two groups? Well, close your eyes and what do you see? Nothing, no difference whatsoever. So was that totally placebo effect that occurs with this surgery? It just makes you think, wow. Makes me think that anyway. Another mind over matter issue. I was down in Roseburg, and one of the patients that I had was a grandmother, and she could barely walk upstairs, a few stairs at her house. Her grandson said to her, "Grandma, I'd like to see the fish in the fish ladder." Well, it's 100 steps down and 100 steps up. And her grandson told her, "I would like to do that." She did not want to disappoint him. And she set on a mission to walk down 100 steps, not knowing if she could get back up again. And she got back up. This was a kind of a mind over matter experience. It was very impressive to me because this lady was not very mobile at all. But because she was doing this for her grandson, she developed strength that she did not know that she had. Now let's talk about some other issues like wound healing. They took a couple, I guess I should stand over here for a moment. They took couples and they put them in counseling sessions. And the first counseling sessions that they went to, this several groups of people, they went into this counseling session and they had the people talk about what happened when they first met, the love feelings they had for each other, how exciting the relationship was, and what good things. And they just kept bantering back and forth from one to the other, how great things were. And then at the end of the session, they took out a little biopsy instrument and took a little sample of skin off of the patient's trunk. And then they saw how long that healed up. But there was a comparison group. And what was the comparison group? It was a group of couples that they took in, but this time, instead of talking about when they got together, they were talking about when's the last time you were angry with each other? You had arguments with each other, and then they'd egg them on. What else went on? And what other bad things are there about your partner? And they kept doing this for about 20 minutes. And they did the biopsy. And did you know it takes about 30 to 40% longer to heal when you're talking negatively than talking about the positive things in your life? Now, if those examples are not enough to kind of get your thought process thinking, you know, maybe I need to stop name calling myself. What does that mean, name calling? What have you been doing? Boy, I'm stupid for doing that. You know, I am so worthless. I cannot even stick to eating some beans and rice over eating that piece of steak or whatever. You know, we talk to ourselves in a way that is not health inducing. If we could learn to talk to ourselves like our grandchildren when they're 5 or 6 or 7 years of age, we would all be a lot healthier. So that's one of my goals with this class, is to get you to think about how you talk to yourself, because it can make a huge difference. In fact, there's a good book about it. It's by Pamela Butler. It's called Talking to Yourself. And I would encourage you to consider getting that if you're like me, who have not talked to yourself very nicely for a while. Let's see. I want to do one more demonstration for us all. I want to talk about what we do for stress before we talk about stress tonight. So, breathing. How many people breathe? Okay, we all know how to do it. In and out. We're usually, you know, we don't give a lot of thought to our breathing most of the time, unless you're in yoga classes or maybe you've taken some breath classes. But you have two systems. You have a sympathetic system, which is a fight or flight system propelled by adrenaline. And, you know, it causes your heart to race and you breathe deeper and faster. But then you have a brake system called the parasympathetic system. This brake system slows your breathing down. So the goal to reducing stress in your life might be to controlling your breath. So we're going to each take a breath in for 4 seconds or so, hold it, let a breath out. We're going to do it 3 times. This is only going to take a minute or so. And then we're going to be done with this experiment. At the end, you can kind of let your shoulders drop and see if you relax a little bit. But this is what I learned to do just by listening to a tape. Someone telling me what to do. I was driving down the road again and I thought, okay, this might be something I'll give a try. And I found it works, because when I'd be under a lot of stress and I was late for dinner and I still had a bunch of charts to dictate and I still had a patient to see, I learned that I didn't have to take 3 full breaths. I could take 1 after I did this enough, and then I could go in and feel present and be there relaxed and listen to my patient. So I'd like you all to practice one time with me. So we're going to take a breath in for 4 seconds. Hold it. And then slowly, maybe a little more than 4 seconds. One more breath in. Hold it. And let it out. One more breath in. And let it out. Slowly, and let your shoulders just drop. You can learn to relax this way, reduce the stress in your life. It's just one technique, but I wanted to start out with that. So you can have good stress, you can have bad stress, and with that, I want to go to, I see a hand that's up. That's what you're going to answer. Oh, it's all right. So we're gonna go over to, oh, I didn't share the screen. Let's see, share. Where is the share screen? We need to change the view. Okay, and so we're sharing the screen. We're optimizing. I don't know why it's not allowing optimizing the video. I have to check with somebody about that. Now we're on share screen. And now we can go to, I hope those of you online can see this. I think those of you here can see it. I hope. And let's see. Oops, we'll leave the meeting. Where'd it go? Did we unshare it? Yeah. What is that? Okay. Let's go to, it's the PowerPoint. Where's the PowerPoint? We're getting there. It's just slow. How slow? Oh, man. Share it one more time. Share away. And I just need to get to my desktop. Where is my desktop? Just minimize it. There we go. Huh? You clicked it and then you wait on it. It just bounced back. All right, here we go. Is that on here? Slideshow. Okay, so we're gonna, if we could close the lights in the back, that would be nice. Thank you very much. Okay, I have Justin Wong's name on the bottom. He prepared a number of slides. He adjusted my presentation. He's a doctor who graduated from the school in Lebanon, the DO school. We talked about this. Some of the most common mental problem disorders in the United States, anxiety and depression. And I want to tell you how I find out when my patients have these sorts of issues, which are quite a number of them. They tell me things like, I'm going out of my mind. I'm always tired, don't have energy. I just cannot seem to get motivated to do what I want. I'm depressed or anxious. I know there have been times when I felt that way myself and had those thoughts and was able to pull myself out of what I call the black hole. And some of you may be in that place, sort of like that lady who I talked to in February. You're not alone. There are
1 in 25 adults, US adults, experience serious mental illness. The most common one, so you see here, anxiety disorders of some sort. We've all probably been a bit anxious at one time or another. Depression is pretty high up there too, about 7%. So it's quite a number of people who have problems associated with potentially stress in your life. But I also want to talk about what your thoughts are as to whether you'll actually get ill with your thoughts about stress. But before we do that, I want to talk about what is stress, and it's kind of the perception that the workload or tasks that you have is just not achievable. If it is achievable, what might happen? What might you be thinking? You've got a project to work on, and you have so much time to do. If you finish that project, how will you feel? Will you feel like you have strength and you have courage and you're a good person? So it could be a challenge. So everything that may be perceived as stress by one person may not be perceived as stress as another. It could be just a challenge. So we're all prone to stress, even superheroes among us. And again, what may be stressful for you may not be stressful for another. For me, snakes produce quite a bit of stress if I see one wiggling around. Other people who are snake tamers, they like it. You know, it's a challenge and fun for them. So, do you know the signs, things that can happen with stress in your life? I'm going to try to get this raised up out of the way. Okay, there we go. Let's talk about the signs of stress. They could be, and let's look at these boxes down here, changes in body functions and physical health. They could be changes in your emotions and feelings, changes in your behavior, changes in your thoughts. And so let's talk about the physical changes. And let me tell you, working in the emergency department, I took care of a lot of people who came in with a number of these complaints. 80% of the emergency department visits that I saw were usually stress-related complaints. And that people came in with dry mouth, pounding heart, difficulty breathing, upset stomach, headache, frequent urination, sweating palms, tight muscles that cause pain and trembling, backache, fatigue, dizziness. We probably all experienced one or more of these in our lifetime. And if you experience a number of them and you're really having trouble breathing, it could be a panic attack, which a number of us may have experienced also. But there are significant physical findings that can become an outcome of stress. What other problems can you have? Emotions and feelings. You can feel tense and irritable, anger, sadness, worry, feeling excessively tired. Changes in your behavior, like too much or too little sleep, too much or too little eating. Same with sex, drinking alcohol, using drugs. These are behaviors that can result from how your body reacts to stress. And then stress can interfere with how you think, feeling helpless, hopeless, harder to remember things, harder to concentrate, harder to look on the bright side. My wife and I are in our 70s. When we were finding difficulty concentrating, what do we think about? We think, oh, is this the dementia coming on us right now? There may be a few of you who have had those kind of thoughts, and it may just be related to the stress in your life and how you're dealing with it. So don't jump to dementia until you've had someone who's had a little time to work with you, evaluate you, and kind of ease your mind, so to speak. Your mind may be just like a muscle and needs to be taken care of. It needs to be fed and exercised and trained healthily, just like physical training. So chronic stress, you have acute stress, and if you keep having that stress over and over and over again,
it can develop into chronic stress. And chronic stress is sort of like, you know, you hit your knee with a hammer and it heals up. It's an acute injury. If you keep hitting your knee with a hammer, it becomes chronic inflammation, chronic stress. Well, how about eating? You eat and you cause inflammation from the free radicals that are produced by the foods you eat. And then, you know, your body heals itself up from the free radicals. How does it heal it up? You know, it uses the antioxidants you eat. If you eat enough of them, it can kind of abate the inflammatory response. But if you're not eating enough, then the inflammation continues. It becomes chronic stress. That chronic stress leads to so many chronic illnesses, as we addressed earlier on in these classes. So you don't want to continue on with chronic stress. It's like hitting yourself in the knee over and over and over again. So there are some key words that you may want to keep in mind. We've talked about stress. There's amygdala. Amygdala is the part of the brain that detects things that are scary or dangerous. You know that snake that I'm afraid of? My amygdala jumps in and goes into panic mode. And it requires my prefrontal cortex, the next couple words, to kind of put a brake on that, to interpret what's really going on and say, you know, that what you thought is a snake on the ground is really a stick that you stepped on, and it's moving. It looks a little bit like a snake, but it's not. So relax, cool your jets. You don't have to go into full panic mode at this point. So you want to kind of strengthen your amygdala so that it doesn't react too much, or strengthen your prefrontal cortex. Now, one of the responses that you have is the amygdala sends signals down to your adrenal glands on top of your kidneys and kicks out cortisone and adrenaline. Okay, so that's some of the physiology. This was the medical student who put the slides together a little bit, so I'm going to kind of scan through them. They're not all that majorly important, except this one. The amygdala can act like an anchor. You see this anchor here? Again, with this person, what does that anchor do? Focusing too much on what's outside of our control, the externals, it can lead to keep us from accomplishing our true potential and actually being happy, because we're worried and stressed out all the time instead of focusing on the things that bring us joy. Okay. What are some of the things that worry us? COVID-19, my friends won't like me or respect me anymore. The world's going to laugh at me. I'm going to get fired. You know, you're worrying about future events, or I made a huge mistake. You need to get by those things. So what's the goal? Have your prefrontal cortex more in control. How do you do that? You know, you kind of have to slay the dragon, train the amygdala, strengthen your prefrontal cortex. How are you going to do that? Well, it's going to be in the form of exercises and potentially diet. Let's talk about exercise for a moment. Moving. You know, we mentioned moving before, and some people say, you know, I really can't move very well. I've got knee problems. I've got problems with this or that. When I was on the tennis court today, I was thinking about that. The people who are not able to move like I was able to move. It's sort of like dancing. You know, you're kind of getting ready for the next ball and moving your body. And I listened to Kelly McGonigal. Is it Kelly? I was listening to her on a podcast. You can turn the lights on for a moment. I was listening over the last couple days. She had a podcast with Rich Roll. And during this podcast, she talked about a book that she wrote about movement, the joy of movement, and how important it is for her mental health and preventing her from dealing with the anxiety, or being able to deal with the anxiety that she's had all her life. And she says the movement It doesn't have to be marathon running. It doesn't have to be lifting weights. It could be like listening to music and just moving with the music. That your muscles, as they're moving, however they're moving, they're releasing myokines. These are chemicals which help you experience joy in your life. So any sort of movement that you can add into your life is so very important. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to lift weights or go to the gym. Getting out and walking in nature is really a healthy activity to do. If you're confined to your home, just turn on some music and move to it, however you feel like moving. Just get your body moving more. You'll feel better. That's what her message was. And it was a powerful message that I was listening to. It was so powerful, it was almost like going to church listening to her. And I'd encourage you to listen to her talk with Rich Roll. She loves dancing, and she talks about that all the time. Now, there are other things you can do. Cold showers. We'll get into that in a moment. I'm not very big on exposing myself to the cold, but it sure does good for some people in this world. And meditation and being mindful, learning how to do that is an extremely important skill to help you reduce the stress in your life. Journaling can be important in your world also. Writing what your thoughts are, your emotions, your feelings. There are so many things. Diet is important. What we talk about, more fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes. These are going to bring you health and happiness, more joy, and the less animal products you consume, the healthier and happier you'll be. We're sharing that science with you. I'm just sharing what I know has happened with me and so many other people who I've interacted with. Let's go on to the next section. Sure. Okay, so the question is, how do you spell McGonigal? M-C-G-O-N-I-G-A-L, McGonigal. Kelly McGonigal. It's actually on the website that Scott has put together so nice. This video is not, but her name is, in case you forget it. So for meditation and mindfulness, do you have to do it for 45 minutes to an hour, as is recommended by Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn? I read through this book and I thought, who can meditate for 45 minutes to an hour? That is nuts. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, I tried it for 2 minutes and I was like bananas. I could not sit still. But I read through the whole book, and by the time I got done with the book, I read about people who help themselves deal with chronic pain, help themselves with feeling better. And I became a believer that I needed to learn how to do this. I'm somewhat competitive with my wife. She took this on, and she could meditate for 20 minutes, half hour without batting an eye. And I just couldn't figure out how to do that. But I finally got up to 20 minutes and I was like cheering myself on at that point. I never have done 45 minutes as yet. I don't have chronic pain. But for those who do, I'd encourage you to consider getting this book.
And these books that he's showing are all up on the website under the book section. And then the Kelly McGonigal, couple different videos are on the video section on the website, livelifestelmedicine.com.
So start with 5 minutes. Start with 2 minutes. Whatever you can do, but get in the habit of doing it. Have a plan. We talked about a plan. The plan goes something like this. I'm going to learn to meditate. I'm going to spend 2 minutes every day of my life, just like I eat every day, I sleep every day, I move every day. I'm going to sit and focus on my breath in and out for 2 minutes every day. And then you can kind of gradually increase that over time. You can get some meditation tapes, whatever you choose to do. There are a lot of things. And if you forget how to do it, call us and we'll encourage you to do it. Now, how you think about stress can really make a difference as to whether you're ill or not. And this is Kelly McGonigill's book that's on our site. She talks about this. Mark Twain said, I've suffered horrible events, many of which have never occurred. You know, that brings to life me thinking about my medical school experiences. When I went to medical school, I started learning about all these diseases, and I had some lumps on my leg here, both sides. I was sure that was cancer. You know, I had these bumps, I still have them. I've seen one other patient with them in my 48 years as a doctor. They didn't have cancer either, but I was sure that was the case. When I saw my first patient with a heart attack, anytime I had chest after that, chest pain or discomfort, you know, like a little gas or burping, hey, I'm having my heart attack now. You know, I've experienced a lot of things which never happened, and I'm sure you all have too. Well, Kelly McGonigal gives a wonderful TED talk about 13 years ago about how making stress your friend can keep you from getting ill. So we used to tell people, if you have a lot of stress in your life, you're going to get sick, you're going to develop heart trouble, diabetes, maybe have a stroke. It's going to kill you. Well, she found in her studies, or whatever studies she reviewed, that if you ask people about how they feel about stress, whether stress is really going to harm them or whether the stress in their life makes them feel more courageous, the people who feel more courageous and like it's helping them learn to deal with the next episode of stress in their life, they don't suffer the same physical illness problems that the people who believe that stress will cause them to become ill. So I don't want you to go away from this class thinking that if you have a lot of stress in your life, you're going to get sick. I want you to think about listening to Kelly McGonigal and say, wait, maybe I should change my thought process to where when I'm feeling under a lot of stress, this is helping me to gain skills to cope with the next challenge in my life. I'm going to become more courageous and resourceful. That's what I want you to get out of this talk. Okay, next. So what are we going to do about stress? Some people get more anxious and stressed out when they're drinking tons of coffee, the caffeine in it, or drinking those drinks with all the caffeine. Eating more fruits and vegetables, we told you, is a definite healthy choice. Sleep is important. If you don't get enough sleep, it's going to decrease your ability of that prefrontal cortex to put a brake on the amygdala. You want to get enough sleep. If you're not, think about getting a sleep test. If you have sleep apnea, use the dang machine. I know you don't like to use it, but use it so you get enough sleep. And if you have other issues connected with that would require cognitive behavioral therapy, dealing with how you set up your environment, how your thought process is. It's more complicated than I want to get into now, but there are ways of getting adequate sleep. Don't ignore it. We've talked about exercise and how important it is, and exercise could be even in the form of, if you don't like to walk, there's yoga, stretching, other kinds of things. Just move your muscles more than you're moving now. Talked about meditation, there's mind calming. Counseling we haven't talked about, but reframing the way that we think, talk, laughing and crying could be helpful, expressing anger, and we did discuss writing. I know this is kind of a duplication, but I just want to keep focusing over and over. So maybe you'll pick up on a point or two. There's biofeedback and progressive muscle relaxation, deep breathing and aromatherapy. And we mentioned cold therapy. There's William Hoff method. He takes a lot of cold therapy, and some people get a traumatic response. If you're having difficulty controlling anxiety or depression, uh, starting with cold showers to dunking yourself in cold water, ice baths, and other kinds of things. I personally am not a big fan of it. I tried the cold showers, doesn't live with my lifestyle. All right, I want to stop for a moment and what do I want to do? One last demonstration. I wish I could show the group. We need a camera I can see right now to have a second thing. But this is the next demonstration. Do you see? Huh? Oh, stop sharing, yeah. So they can kind of see. What I'm holding in my hand is a jar. It's filled with rocks. Everybody see this jar filled with rocks? You see where it comes to? I'm holding at the neck. They all fit in. Yeah. Man, I hope they all go back out or back in. Okay. The jar is empty. Yeah. Okay. So, how do we get all the rocks in? I'm getting there. It's almost done. Just a few more little pieces here. Few more. Few more. Few more. Few more. Few more. Few more. We're getting there. What does it look like? Why can't I get all these rocks back in the jar? Aha, there's the answer. I should have put the bigger rocks in first. So if you have issues in your life, if you keep thinking about all the minor issues in your life, the garage needs cleaning, the kids, they're not taking care of the dog properly. I don't know what other minor issues may come about in your particular life, but you have some big rocks that you would probably rather ignore because they're big. You have to start with the big rocks if you want to get them all back in the jar. All right, it's kind of a silly experiment, but for me, it worked to get the idea that I need to focus on the things that are important to me. My relationship with my wife. I need to consider how many times I go play tennis every week because our relationship is that important to me. I could ignore it, but I usually wind up asking her, you think it's okay if I go play tennis tomorrow? They're asking me, they need a sub. I don't have to do that, but it's an important thing. It's a big rock in my life. There are lesser important issues, and we all choose what's important and not. I'm going to stop for a moment because I want to see if there's any questions, and then I want to do a quick review. I promised you that I was going to go over a kind of a quick list of things that we can do. It won't take long. Any questions? Anybody have any experiences with stress in their life, caused them physical problems or whatever? Do you care to share? Watching the news, yeah. So what's the, if watching the news causes you problems, is there a solution to that? How hard is that to do? It's hard, isn't it? Because we kind of want to know what's going on. And so it's kind of an approach avoidance kind of thing. I run into the same thing. My wife generally has a little less tolerance than I do. She says, turn the TV off. You know, I can tolerate more, but. All right, I'm going to just share this, and then eventually you'll come up with some questions of the people online may. So the summary, what to do? Eat healthy. Do we know how to do that? For those of you who are new, you may want to go back to some of the introductory classes online, or we do one-on-one counseling with anyone. It's free. Just give us your email or your phone number, and we'll call you and have a little session like we had with this other lady to get you started. And have another session if that's what it takes. Eat healthy, move more and sit less. Go natural, experience the joy of nature daily. Fresh air, sunshine, the magic of flowers and trees. If you happen to wind up in the hospital, get a room with a window to nature outside. You'll heal faster. That's an impressive study that was done. Rest well, sleep for 7 or so hours a day. Those hormones, ghrelin and leptin, are hormones that make you hungry or curb your appetite and are affected by sleep. And lack of sleep increases depression by 4 times. Be mindful of your thoughts, and particularly positive thoughts. The way you think and the way you speak can change how you feel. So no more self-talk that's negative. You deserve happiness and success on your way to your personal goals. So one of the thoughts, the phrases that I'd encourage you all to think about asking yourself or speaking to yourself every day is, I'm enough. So often we think that we fall short and we're not good enough. How do we get to I'm enough? How do we teach our children that they're enough? Some of us like competition, some of us don't, but there's got to be some way in which we feel good about ourselves and that it's enough. And the other thing that I hear so commonly is, I have to give up this or that. That is not a path to success in changing your lifestyle. So instead of that is, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. You've got to be talking to yourself in a way that this is something that you want to do. You're doing this to get your health. You're not doing this as a punishment. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many of these people who were successful, they were able to change their thought process in that direction. Focus on your important relationships, like learning the language of love. If you haven't read this book, it's a good one. It's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. really good book talking about how, if you don't understand what your partner's love language is, it's like you're speaking in a foreign language. It's a really good book. Tony Robbins has a really good book, Awaken the Giant Within. He talks to you about how you speak to yourself, and, why are you getting up in the morning, what's important in your life. But the one book that I really recommend for everybody is this book. It's called The Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living. This is on the website by Amit Sood. It's helped me and it's helped a number of people deal with their stress. He talks about the mind and how it's got a default mode. It's always searching for the stresses and the threats in your life. And there's about 150 of these folders that keep opening up throughout the day. They're unresolved conflict areas. And your brain will default to these areas unless you train your brain to think about being right here, right now. Most all of you are right here, right now, listening to what we're talking about. You're not thinking about paying the mortgage bill or the car payment. Hopefully you're not. Maybe you're bored that you would do that, but I try not to bore you. But you need to train your brain. And how do you do that? He does that through meditation, but he also does it in other ways. He says, think about the things that you're grateful for. Before you get out of bed in the morning, I think of 5 things I'm grateful for. Like I look over and see my wife and I say to myself, I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my kids, grateful for my grandkids. I'm grateful for the classes that I'm able to teach, grateful for my health. 5 things every day before you get out of bed. He talks about that. It's very easy to do, but it trains your brain. Compassion. He says, think about when you're in line the next time, and you know how you get upset, how someone's thumbing through their wallet or their purse and they can't find the credit card, and you're in a hurry, and just rather than getting upset, think about, that happened to me one time. It's just like me. He says, think about when you have those experiences that you have probably done the same thing at some time, and working on your compassion is important. He talks about acceptance. Stop trying to change your partner. We all do it. We all think about it, but it doesn't work that way. They have to be the one to initiate the change. And it just drives us nuts when we can't help somebody else. And then he talks about meaning in life, having something that you look forward to. Could be community service, could be other kinds of things. And then he talks about forgiveness. And the forgiveness issue is the story concerning forgiveness goes something like this. There were a couple Vietnam War veterans. They met at the memorial in Washington, D.C., and they were prisoners of war. And they were talking with each other. One of the guys says to the other friend, have you forgiven our captors? And the other guy looks back at him and says, I'll never forgive them. They tortured us. It was such a miserable experience. I will never get over that, what they did to us. And his friend looks back at him and says, well, I see you're still in prison. So learning how to forgive. We actually did our full, down in Roseburg, session like this when we had a little bit larger group and people shared their experiences of how they were hurt by people and how they came to the point of forgiveness and how it was like lifting a weight off of their shoulder. I have so many things to talk about. I could go on and on and on. And each of you have different issues. But I think I need to stop there to make sure that we are able to answer any questions either online or in person here, either about tonight's topic or anything else that you want to talk about. You've been good. I'm sorry it takes so long. It's been fun for me though. Yes.
Okay, I went to a seminar on stress management, and what they recommend, which I've been doing, especially as I'm getting ready to go to bed, is I breathe in 4, I hold it for 7, and then release it for 7. And then,
Sounds good.
yeah, the other question I have actually is, I have a hard time getting to sleep, so I could be in bed for like 8 hours, but I don't necessarily sleep for 8 hours. So does laying in bed help, or does it have to actually be 8 full hours of sleep? Because I've never known this, you know.
I think 7 hours of sleep is okay. Do you
But
get
even
sleep?
if I don't,
Huh?
even if I'm laying awake for a while,
Even if you're laying awake, if you're in bed for 8, if you're sleeping for 7, that would be great. If you're sleeping for 4, then what's recommended is that you get out of bed if you haven't gone to sleep within a 15 or 20 minutes or so. Do some other activities and go back to bed.
and then one more thing, when you were talking about being grateful, what I've done for many years now is before I go to bed, I drink 5 drinks, because that kind of clears myself
Nice.
of the day rather than.
I think whenever you choose to do it would be just fine. Anybody else have any thoughts? Yeah.
Well, this is a little scary. I just wanted to say a few words about meditation because I'm a longtime meditator. And people think that meditation is about stopping thoughts. That will never happen. That our brains, they're made for thinking and that will never stop. But the point of meditation is to get a little distance from your thoughts. So you're not so, your thoughts can really traumatize you. They can really build up your blood pressure and make you very, very nervous if you're thinking, I can't do this thing coming up. But it's just a thought, right? It's just a thought. Nobody says that thought's going to be right. I used to use the example of, think of a jelly donut. You know, those raspberry filled, you know, the white sugar on them. Okay, think about it. That's just a thought. And it's in the same ilk of the thought saying, I can't ever possibly do this. It's a thought. And so it's not about stopping thoughts, but breathing. And I have a friend that I've been talking to about meditation. She started doing it 5 minutes a day. Just sitting and breathing, counting her breath, producing her thoughts as they fly. And when you get caught up with the thought, so I'm meditating, you know, 40 minutes in the morning, and I'm sitting there and about 20 minutes through and I'm planning dinner, right? That's what's going to happen. And so I said, okay, go back to the breath. And so I just wanted to say that it's not about stopping thoughts, it's about learning to watch them and not take them quite so seriously. Do you want me to? Oh, okay. I'm Pam Burrell, and I'm a psychologist, and I'm going to be talking next week. Some overlap, but I'm a trauma psychologist, and I'll be talking more about the emotional impact and emotional stress and dealing with that. I think if that sounds interesting to people, I'll take that. But okay, something like that.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Anybody else? I have an extra one here. So we want to make sure that we get your questions answered. I'm not sure we answered the question about getting stuck at plateau.
No.
Okay, we want to add whatever we can, you know, a lot of this is gonna be perhaps writing down some of the barriers, getting curious about what your thoughts are during the time when you seem to be stuck. You can do that. I think, who is it, Brewer? Justin Brewer. He has a good book on getting curious about habits if you're wanting to change them. That's on the website also. Anything else? Yes, hold on.
Like, are there any books or any information on how to get to sleep?
We do have a whole class on just dedicated to sleep. That'll be coming up.
So, sleep can be insomnia, sleep can be related to some sleep disorders. So you have to first make a decision, is one of the problems you have sleep apnea or some other physical problem that is causing a problem with sleep. The other could be insomnia, which is you have trouble getting to sleep, you're waking up repeatedly throughout the night, that sort of thing. And that the therapy for that is cognitive behavioral therapy, and maybe Pam can address that a little bit next week if there's time.
There's a whole, on the website also of resources, there's a whole, all the handouts you guys have, all 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine in front of you. From back on the table, there's a 1-page summary of each of those 6 on the class website under the resources section or under the handouts from classes. So if anyone's not familiar with the website, on the homepage, livelifestylemedicine.com, just go about 2/3 the way down the homepage, and you'll see something there that says website tutorial, and just click on that, watch it. It's about 15 minutes. It's just a video of me giving a tour of where everything is on the website, the archives, where all the resources are. So check that out.
Anyone else? Tell us about it.
So you talked about cold therapy. I love cold therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you had mentioned cold therapy. I love cold therapy. I've been doing it for years. I actually do like my training outside in the winter. I go outside and I lift my weights out in the winter. And I also do like my marathon training out in the winter. Maybe it's a Chicago thing. I'm from Chicago. Negative degrees do not bother me at all. I love it, and I'm doing like my running for like an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and I just bundle up for it, of course. But it is pure peace of mind.
Are you familiar with William Hoff and his therapy? Are you familiar with William Hoff's
No,
therapy?
no,
Okay. Well, thank you for that feedback. You know,
yeah.
Are you in the volunteer class?
No, I'm trying to be.
said he's training to be ultra marathon runner. Anybody else? Let's talk about food for a moment. Anybody struggling with their food choices? No struggles? Yes.
Last week when Scott shared about the sugar addiction and the rats with the dopamine, that really resonated with me. And so I ordered the 2 books that you guys mentioned in class. But then I actually found a really good podcast called Food Junkies Recovery from Food Addiction. And on episode number 36, there's a guy named Mike Collins, and he is the sugar-free man. He has not had sugar in 30 years. So I listened to his podcast and I realized, wow, I am a sugar addict. So I am detoxing from sugar, and I'll tell you in 2 weeks whether I survive it.
Food Junkies podcast. What? It's not. Doesn't have anything to do with Vera Tarman, who wrote the book Food Junkies. Okay. Yeah. So it's Vera Tarman's podcast. She's a psychiatrist. Vera Tarman, the Food Junkies. That book is on the website book section. So I talked about it last week.
So talking about the sugar thing, I don't know what you guys think of this, but it came up on my email today from the Forks Over Nights site. But it's a 5 days to get off sugar, and it's being done by Joel Furman, who I know who he is. The other guy I hadn't heard of, Nathan Crane. Is that anybody? I don't know. But they're doing, starting September 19th, it's a free 5-day thing where it's a 5-day sugar reset challenge. So I don't know if it's going to be worth it, but it's free, so I'm checking it out because I'm a sugar alcoholic.
Those 2 Forks Over Nights, you say?
Yeah, it came through Forks Over Nights Facebook, or emails.
Right. Right.
And it came up through that, but it's from Health Fruits.
From Health Treats.
Site that came up.
Thank you.
Anybody online have anything to add? Anybody in the class have anything they care to talk about? Go ahead.
There's you guys said a quote. You guys said a quote here that I absolutely love. I learned about this quote maybe about 4 years ago when you said, "I don't have to do this. I get to do this." That really helped me 4 years ago, and I've been practicing it ever since. Before then, I never heard that, and it changed my life. How I just look at all things that make me challenging. And I just thought about the people who don't even have the chance to actually do it. Maybe due to their freedom, maybe due to their financial issues, maybe due to any injuries or injuries that they may inherit. There's this woman who I watch on Instagram. I actually met her. She's an paraplegic Olympics. She's a professional cyclist, and just like learning her story, I have like no excuse at all. So she has like MS, and she still competes and has like sponsorships and things. And like that's amazing. But that quote, this when I heard you say that quote, it made me think about her and just about everything that I'm aiming towards, like excuses. You know what I mean? Because I have all the things laid out to do it. You know, so yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. So ultimately, we're here to support each other. There's a number of people that have not connected with this group that are actually supportive. We meet them at the health fairs, and hopefully we keep getting more and more people who really have an understanding that our lifestyle choices can really bring us health, and it's not another pill that going to your doctor for your health that's going to bring you health. You know, that's something that's become more and more impactful in my life. Having been the doctor who people have come to for the answer for their health, and I didn't realize that it was really just helping them make different healthy choices and not me prescribing another pill. It's taken a few years, but I finally get it. Okay, everybody. For those of you who are willing to help us put the
chairs and tables back. We'd love that. Oh, look, we're leaving the tables. Okay, great.
Oh, so everybody gets a break tonight.
And
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks. Bring more family and friends. And as time goes on, we have in the fall and stuff, we're going to be doing like instead of a class on a Friday, we'll do a movie. We'll do potlucks like on Saturday. We'll probably be having a potluck. And so we'll have other things. We do like just lecture every week. And just keep an eye on the schedule. It's at the bottom of the homepage of redlifestylemedicine.com. Also on geneplantbasedproviders.com. You can see what classes are coming up. And they're going to be ongoing. So just keep on checking out everything, the newsletter, kind of stay connected. Love having you here. Thanks, you guys. You can still hear me? Great. Hopefully thanks for being the kind of the guinea pigs. We're still working. We keep changing our sound system combinations every week to find what works. So you guys could hear pretty well when we had the microphone and the little microphone at the same time. You guys could hear. Okay, good.
At the beginning of class, it was a little quiet.
Yeah, I think because early on we were just using this big microphone.
Okay.
And then so basically the little microphone seems to be better for you guys in Zoom, and the big microphones for everybody in the room to hear.
Okay.
So I think we got the right combination as long as we keep the little microphone and the big microphone at the same time.
Yeah, that seems to have worked really well.
Good, thanks a lot. So hopefully we lost a few people early on. They were probably frustrated with not being able to hear, but anyway, great. All right, I guess I'll end the class, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you later.
Bye.